What's up, guys? My name's Cody, and this is another UFC betting breakdown. This time for UFC Vegas 27, and we got Cody Garbrandt taking on Rob Font in the main event. That's going to be a great fight, and some other great fights throughout the card. There's some fights that I know a lot of people have been shitting on this card, but honestly, I think it's a pretty good card. I mean, it's a free card, and they're putting on cards like this every week. I think it's a pretty good card. So, 13 fights on the dock so far. So hopefully we don't have any drop out. And just want to say before we get into it, last week, not a good card. You know, I always, I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. Not a great card. I mean, it was a card filled with even lines and really a lot of pick 'em fights. But just a lot of times, in 50-50, you can get especially if you got good odds. If you get good odds on it, you can still feel confident because some of those are going to roll your way and you're still going to come out with a profit if you're getting, good odds on it. But, man, it was an unlucky week betting-wise, but it was a great card as far as entertainment. I had a great time, even though it was a bad betting week and we lost, or Tony Ferguson lost, which is never fun to watch. 3 in a row, just breaking my heart. But, yeah, I mean, tough night for betting, but fun card overall. And let's get back on it this week. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and leave a comment. Let me know who you're picking for the week, who your lock of the card is, any of that shit. I love when people tell me, whether it's in the comments on Twitter, coming through, watching the fights on Twitch. We do this shit every week, and I'm a little late with the video this week. Been having some PC problems. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna have some of my Discord buddies help me out with it for a little bit. But yeah, now I'm just wasting time. Sorry about that. Appreciate everybody for watching, and let's get into it. Shit. First fight of the night, we got Ismagulov taking on Rafael Alves, and not too much to say about this fight. Honestly, I'm not gonna keep it going. That's one thing I will say real quick. A lot of people have been telling me different what they want to see, what they like, what they dislike, things like that. I think I'm gonna start trying to spend most of my time on the fights that I'm most interested in betting, and the fights that I feel like you guys might be the most interested in betting. I'll try to waste. I was kind of making it even a lot, and maybe doing a little bit more on the big fights, but I'm gonna try to stop wasting too much time. I'll try to keep these videos as short as possible, even though I just went on for 3 minutes about things that don't pertain in this fight. But, here we are. Just wanted to throw that out there. And this is a good example of that because, Demir coming in this, I guess the one thing you could say as a negative for him is he hasn't fought in, 2 years now. So, I mean, obviously that's not great. He could be a little rusty, but he's on a serious streak right now. And over there fighting an M1, those aren't scrubs. And he's on a huge streak right now. It's 17 fights. This dude's super legit, man. Even his one loss here, professional, to Ramazan Izinbev. Pretty legit fighter, man, and I went back and watched that fight. It's not like he got starched or completely out grappled or some shit like that. He just lost a close decision. And in this fight, man, I just feel like this is a tough fight, and I feel like it's a bit of a punishment fight for Alves, who came in to the fight and is against Pat Sabatini 10 pounds overweight or some shit. It was insanity. He was I think it might have been 11 and a half, 12. Oh, wait, I think it'll tell us right here. Where was he at? 157 for a featherweight fight. So technically he could be 146. So that's, 11 and a half pounds over. That is insanity. He was overweight for the next weight class. Oh my God. And, I feel like this is a bit of a, that was coming off his Contender Series fight, which, beat a decent fighter by guillotine, Alejandro Flores, not, pretty good win for sure. His best win. He beat Felipe Douglas. His last 3 fights are decent wins, but, Ismagulov, man, I just feel like he's going to be able to exploit. We've seen Alves doesn't have the greatest gas tank. he is explosive and he's dangerous in that first round. So if you're taking Alves, I feel like you could just take like knockout in the first round, because after that I just don't really see it happening, man. I mean, Ismagulov, he's just like, he might not be the most exciting fighter to some people, but he's a better's favorite, because he'll come in and just do what he has to do to get the win. And yeah, I just think he has Alves completely outmatched here. I don't see him being super hittable, which would be what Alves needs, because he just needs to catch him with some big shot. I don't see any other way he wins. And especially considering I feel like Ismagulov has a much better gas tank. I think he could even, he's not a huge finisher, but I think a finish is definitely on the table, especially in the second round going into the third. Like, we could definitely see Alves slow down, especially because if he's smart, he's probably going to come here and try to knock Demir's head off. So when that doesn't work, he's going to get tired. And Ismagulov could definitely submit him or maybe even knock him out. So I'm going to take Ismagulov by submission. But I think a knockout's on the table too. I mean, I could see it happening. I could see a finish happening either way. But next fight, we got Yancy Medeiros taking on Damir Hadsvik. And, man, both these guys on some losing streaks right now. Yancy 3 and then Damir 2. But, I mean, if you look at Yancy's, and, I mean, Damir hasn't fought scrubs, but Yancy's, he's fighting a lot of top guys. I mean, Lando looked great last weekend. I mean, yeah, he's had an up and down career, but like that's a big name. Gregor Gillespie. Oh, he lost a ground and pound to Gregor Gillespie. Yeah, I mean that, and those are problems that I don't think Demir's going to be bringing into this fight. So, and then Donald Cerrone, and then the Brazilian cowboy Alex Oliveira, Eric Silva. Okay, yeah, it's 2017 Eric Silva, but still, it's a decent win. Sean Spencer lost to Francisco Trinaldo, John McDessie, Dustin Poirier, Jim Miller. He was fighting Jim Miller in 2014. Yves Edwards. I mean, these are good fights, even if they're not wins. Like, that's good experience. And then, yeah, he fought Renato Moicano. Now he got knocked out in the first round, 44 seconds in. And then he fought Christos Giagos, who had a great performance last week. One of the only ones who the fights went exactly how I figured it would. But other than that, I mean, Marcin Held, Alan Patrick, Polo Reyes, Marbek Taisumov obviously got knocked out in the first round as well. It's like his two biggest, most impressive fights, opponent wise, is Renato Moicano and then Taisumov. But he got knocked out in the first round in both of those. Damir definitely has heavy hands and is dangerous on the feet. And just throwing those big shots, like big knees, big punches in the clinch. But I just feel like Yancy, he's been losing a lot by getting out grappled. But I just don't see that's gonna happen against Damir. I think fight's gonna play out on the feet, and Yancy's gonna have a 5.5-inch reach advantage, which I always say reach can be a disadvantage. It's not always an advantage, but I just feel like it's gonna play out on the feet. This is a pretty good stylistic matchup for Yancy, especially at underdog prices. I think, I think this fight's gonna play out on the feet. Just has to avoid the big shots because Damir is dangerous on the feet. He could clip him with something and knock him out, but I don't think that's the best way to beat Yancy. I think Yancy's going to land more volume and win at least 2 of these rounds and get a decision. So I'm going to take Yancy by decision, but I think this is another fight where a knockout is definitely on the table. Next up, we got David Dvorak taking on Juan Camilo Honduras. And, this is going to be a pretty crazy fight because, this Ronduros coming in short notice. And, David Dvorak lately, I mean, he's been looking pretty good, even though he hasn't fought the toughest competition but I mean, Jordan Espinoza, pretty good. That's a pretty good win. A lot of people had Espinoza I just called him Espinosa. Or, I don't know what I just said. I was just looking at that line because they just dropped it. And yeah, I mean, he's a huge favorite. But, Bruno Silva, that's a good win. And, I mean, we've been seeing that even though Bruno Silva, we're going to talk about him later, a lot of tough fights, man. Even if some of those are losses so far in the UFC, he's proven that he's pretty good everywhere. And, I mean, this is going to be a tough fight for Ronderos to come in on short notice. Only 4 professional fights. Did have a good amateur career, but, it's a little different than fighting at Tough Enough promotion and Battle in the Barn. You know what I mean? Is fighting at Extreme Couture, pretty solid gym, like to see that from a guy who's coming in, just, 4-0. But, I don't know. I just feel like the experience advantage. Dvorak's just going to throw more volume. You don't know where his cardio is going to be at so short notice. Dvorak's got good leg kicks, too. I think he can keep him on the outside. And, I mean, we don't have his reach yet, but I definitely do feel like Dvorak's he fights a little longer, and I think he could definitely keep him on the outside, chop him with the leg kicks. And we're going to see... we'll probably see... I don't typically... I had Dvorak by decision before, but honestly think that, he's got a good amount of finishes on his record. Those are a little bit lighter competition, but I do feel like with Ronderos coming in short notice, this could be a good chance for Dvorak to get a finish here. So I'm going to take Dvorak by TKO, probably late in the second round. I just think this is gonna be a tough fight to step in for your 5th fight short notice. Dvorak's, he's proven he's a tough guy, man. Getting a win over Bruno Silva. I'm not saying Bruno Silva's a world beater, but I'm pretty high on the guy, and we'll talk about him later. Next up, we got Joshua Kulabau taking on Cheyne Neerderbeek. Yeah, I forgot his other name that they call him, but yeah, pretty tough. Sorry, I just absolutely murdered your name, man. Hopefully, I don't get tore up about that. But, Kulabau, pretty crazy to see him coming in as such a big favorite. Because, I mean, so far, he's had a row of tough opponents, man. Came in and made his debut against Jalen Turner. Was obviously a big underdog in that. And then it was Jourdain was minus 550 in that fight. And I had a parlay with Jourdain in it. I was pretty heavy on it. I might have had 2 parlays with him. Because I know I had a good amount of money riding on him. And I was sweating when they read that decision, man. If they would have gave it to Kulabau, I would not have been, able to talk any shit. He did gas out. I mean, I believe he went into that fight short notice. He might have even went into the Jalen Turner one short notice. I feel like the Jourdain one was short notice, though. But, I just remember, that first round, man. That first round, he dropped Jourdain, and I thought he was going to finish him. I thought the fight was over. And, Jourdain did hang on. One thing, you could say is, yeah, he did gas out. But Jourdain, that dude has no quit in him. And I know that's a cliche thing to say about a fighter. All these guys are tough. But he really is tough as shit. And just good durability and good, he's got a great pace, good cardio. So getting tired against him is not really something I'm going to hold against him too much. And I just think, man, Jalen Turner, that's a tough debut, honestly. And I mean, yeah, he hasn't fought the toughest competition so far. But definitely seems like, I get why he's the favorite in this fight. Because these, this is another big Chinese prospect training over there. Has been training at their Chinese Performance Institute, and I don't want to hold it against the guy, but you do have to take in that they have not been doing so well in the UFC so far. Even on that Rose Wei Li card alone, I think they went 0-4. Maybe it was just 0-3. I think at least 0-3. But actually got knocked out in the first round by Zhu Rong, who tough kid, 21, which is so he has all the time in the world. But, we did see, as, we knew we could see, that record was a little padded, man. You're like, how can this guy already have 21 fights at the age of 21? Well, it's easy when, I won't say easy, but it's a little different. It's a little easier when you're fighting some of these guys that they had him getting in there with. Even the ones with better records, it's like you look at who they're fighting, and they're also fighting cans. So, the scene out there for regional MMA, he was 14-3 fighting a guy 0-4. That's like boxing shit. Like, you don't see that in MMA. 16-3 as the champ fighting a guy that was 9-7. Like, come on, man. Like, that don't really make sense. So Rodrigo Vargas was like a clear step up. Not that he's a world beater, but that was a huge step up. And, so getting knocked out by him in the first round, you don't want to do MMA math too much, but, it's just, we just saw a lot of flaws in his game already, and I just feel like, man, this is going to be a tough fight for Cheyne. Man, I wish I could remember his nickname. I literally had it, and then it's always right before I record, and it's gone. But I do think Culibao should win this match, but, man, minus 260 on a guy who, I get he's had tough matchups, but we haven't got to see the real potential yet. He had a good half of a fight against Jourdain for sure. Don't get me wrong, it was a great fight. I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about as far as winning and losing, like, he looked good for the first half of that fight for sure. And definitely proved that, like, he shouldn't be a plus 500 against anybody. Or plus 400 probably was really what it was. But, think he should win this fight, but, man, this line's a little too crazy for me. I think I'm going to take Culibao by TKO, though. Probably another second round TKO. But I got to see him do what I think he does have potential to do. But I want to see that before I'm paying damn near 3-1 prices. Even 2-1, really. If it was 2-1, okay, I'll be honest, I might play that. Or maybe play him by TKO. But, minus 260, I think there's not really value on that. But I am going to take Culibao by TKO second round. Next up, we got Bruno Silva taking on Victor Rodriguez. And, last time we saw Victor Rodriguez, he took on Adrian Yanez and got knocked out in the first round. Yanez kind of styled on him a little bit, beat him pretty easily. It was nice because I was pretty heavy on him that night. And obviously we've seen Yanez has some, like, he does have some holes in his game, too. But in that first round, he's definitely very dangerous. And, we did see Jordan Wright from the Alaska Promotions go out there and win a fight last week. But, Victor Rodriguez, he's been training at... he's been out there fighting Alaska FC, Metal and Mayhem, Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Solid as a rock fighting championship. And he's losing some of those fights. At least this one right here. The other one, Alaska FC, to a 2-0 guy. It just, what we saw in the Yanez fight, it just seems like, man, like, he has 10 fights, but the experience isn't the same because the guys he's fighting are just so low level that it's almost as if he only really has like a couple fights worth of experience. He just looks like a really inexperienced guy. And I'm sure he could be good. He's 28, so like he's got to get going. But, it's just tough when, it just seems like he hasn't really, when you're not forced to get tested early, it's just, unless you're just built a little bit different and just training, win or lose. But, man, it just seems like he just looks very inexperienced, and he's fighting a guy, Bruno Silva, who's just like a little bit better everywhere. I don't see a play, and he's training over at Fight Ready MMA, one of the better gyms in MMA right now. And yeah, he's got some losses, but look who he's fighting, man. Losses don't, like, you'll hear me say it every week, like, I'll rather see these losses than those wins. Now, unless the guy's taking crazy damage, but he's not taking a ton of damage. He fought David Dvorak, who we talked about earlier. It was a good fight. He fought Tagir Ulanbekov. And I had a parlay. That was another one where I had a parlay on him, Ulanbekov, and I was sweating. He was like 4-1 or some shit. I don't know. Maybe not 4-1. I don't know. It was some ridiculous price, and I shouldn't have even had money on it. But, I'm big on Ulanbekov. So I laid that chalk, and Bruno made me sweat it. And in his last fight, I bet him, though, against JP Buys. And, a lot of people, I think, got on him last minute because that line started to change. But, he just showed that, you can come off a couple losses and still, look great in your next fight. It's one thing if you're getting knocked out repeatedly and taking a ton of damage and not taking the time to recover. But, losses don't always mean it. Wins and losses both don't always mean everything. And Bruno's clearly getting better. And while he is, he's 31, but, he does seem like, is he going to be championship level? I probably wouldn't bet that to happen. But I do think that, he can beat a lot of these guys. And I do think he's going to get a ranking. I think he's top 15 in the division. At least, after this fight, I think he's going to put a good performance on this one. Probably get a finish. I think he can get it either way. I think he's the better grappler. I think he can take Victor down. I don't think Victor can take him down. If he can, I think Bruno could sweep him pretty easily. I just feel like Bruno has the advantages everywhere. He's fought much better guys. Now the line is a little crazy, so I get it. If you're taking Victor, you take him first round knockout, or first round knockout with a little sprinkle on second round knockout, or maybe you just take, Victor by finish if you really think he catches Bruno in a guillotine or something. But that's probably not gonna happen. Don't see that happening. But you have to take Victor by finish if you're taking Victor, right? I don't see him winning a decision against Bruno. Bruno's just going to be the much more technical fighter everywhere. Maybe Victor catches him. If he does, it's probably going to be early. But I just see Bruno a much higher level of martial artist, and he's going to have a good performance on Saturday. Next up, we are going to... I will take Bruno by knockout. Probably another second round knockout. I think Victor will come at him hard because I don't see him having any other real path to victory, but trying to just knock Bruno out and him running into his own big shot and getting finished. I could also see Bruno just taking him down. If a submission comes, okay. If not, take the decision. But we'll see what game plan Bruno comes out with because I truly do think he's just a little bit better everywhere. Next up, we got Claudio Silva taking on Court McGehee. It is cool to see Claudio Silva fighting again, recently, because, he doesn't fight often. I mean, it's been 7 months, but this guy does not fight often. In the last 7 years, he's fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. One of those wins was a split decision over Leon Edwards. Fought Nordine Taleb, Danny Roberts, Cole Williams. It's kind of crazy that he went Leon, and then, this was a long time ago, but Leon, then Nordine Taleb, Danny Roberts, yeah. But in his last fight, man, he did prove what a lot of us know about him is, he's 38 years old, and, in his last fight, we just saw that, dude, the guy's gas tank, it's never been good, but it seems to be getting just even worse, and that James Krause fight, it was just... James had an injury to his leg or something. I think it was his leg. And Silva just literally could not capitalize because he was so gassed. He's got about a round of cardio. And Court McGehee in his last fight didn't look great either. You see a lot of red on that record right there. But, Ryan LaFleur, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Ben Saunders, Sean Strickland, Diego Lima, Sean Brady, Carlos Condit. Dude, those aren't easy fights. And put up a good fight with Sean Brady. Split decision with Diego Lima. Only really Sean Strickland, Sean Brady out-grappled him. You haven't really seen him fight like... See, the problem in the Carlos Condit fight was he did not shoot any takedowns. And I've heard it over and over, like, you know, we were talking about it when we broke that fight down, is they used to be training partners, they were friends. Maybe, like, they both were talking, like, yeah, we're going to go out there and put a fight of the night. Like, I'm trying to get a bonus. Like, man, Carlos Condit, I love the guy. Not good takedown defense. Court McGehee had a path to victory, and he never even attempted a takedown. He sat up there and kickboxed the kickboxer. So, of course he lost that fight. If you would have told me beforehand, Carlos Condit and fucking Court McGehee are going to kickbox for 3 rounds, who do you got? I'd be like, anything better than minus 400 or anything, yeah, minus 400 or better, I'll take Carlos Condit. Like, obviously, if you were to tell me he wasn't going to shoot one takedown, like, at least attempt one, make him stuff a take, make him just, even if you would tell me, like, he would at least go out there and shoot some takedowns, even if he wasn't going to land them, yo, just to make Carlos wrestle. That's how you tire him out. You can't just strike the striker. You're going to get tired. That's part that other people don't think about. Like, even if you go 0 for 10 in takedowns on a guy who doesn't want to wrestle, yeah, it's more tiring to do the offensive wrestling. It is more tiring to get sprawled on than to sprawl. That's for sure. I know firsthand and just from watching MMA. But you can't just kickbox the kickboxer. Court McGehee has made a career wrestling people. I know you're seeing a lot of red right now, but, you know, he picked up some good wins. But, you know, he's been fighting for a long time. Look at that, 2007. I mean, he stayed in the UFC by going in there. Had a split decision over Robert Whittaker. That was a long time ago. But I'm just saying, like, you know, he's got to use his wrestling. He's got to use his grappling. He's not a striker. The good thing for him in this fight is he's never been submitted. And Claudio Silva doesn't really, like, yeah, he'll throw meat hooks in that first round and try to kill you, but I actually think Court McGee's a little bit better striker, and he definitely has a better gas tank. He burned me in that last fight, so I'm a little scared to take him. If I was going to take him, I'd take him by decision, but then you got to be scared that Silva just falls over because he's so gassed. I mean, Court McGehee isn't really finishing anybody with strikes these days, but, you know, Claudio's just gas tank is so bad that if he goes balls to the wall, yeah, if he goes balls to the wall in that first round, you could definitely see him just fall over, and then, you know, any living, breathing man at 170 could finish him. But, you know, overall, I'm going to take Court McGehee. I'm going to take him by decision, but, you know, I'm a little scared because he just had the terrible, worst game plan his last fight, and, like, that shit... When I watch something like that, it makes me never want to bet them again. Because then you can't even, like, accurately predict what's going to happen. Because they could go in there and just be like, yeah, fuck a game plan. I'm going to kickbox Carlos Condit. Dude who has, like, 20% takedown defense. And I'm a wrestler. Like, man, I hate to be friggin' playing couch quarterback or whatever it's called, but... Jesus, that pained me to watch. After, like, the first round, I was like, interesting game plan, but he's obviously going to come out here and wrestle in that second. And then didn't even, like, change levels once. He said, fuck it. I'm literally kickboxing Carlos Condit. Like, insane. Anyways, before I just go on all night about that, I got Court McGehee by decision, but I'm really going to try to resist betting that. Next up, we got Ben Rothwell taking on Chris Barnett, and this is a weird one, man. 5'9" against 6'4". I mean, again, height is not everything, but man, heavyweight division is crazy. Like, Ben Rothwell, it's not about, like, the height. It's just, like, his frame. He's so much bigger than Chris Barnett. Chris is just, like, literally just wide. He's just fat. And it's one thing when you're DC and you got all that muscle behind it. Barnett is athletic as hell. Dude is super athletic for a fat guy. But, and he trains at Jackson Wink, you know. But it's just, man, this guy walks around at like 350 sometimes. He's fought at like plus 300 something pounds, like 330, 340. Dude is just an absolute behemoth. But he should be fighting at like middleweight. And again, it's not about the height. It's just like his frame. He's not a big guy. He's just fat. But, moving on to the technical aspects of it, but you can't just not bring that up. You got Ben Rothwell, who's fought the who's who, and man, I mean, you go down his record like just nothing but the names. Like he's fought everyone, really, like all the heavyweights of his time. Has his own gym, but he gets to train with a lot of he gets a lot of good work with it. You always see him posting with big fighters and shit. So he trains hard. He's pretty well known in the game. But and Chris Barnett, obviously, like I said, Jackson Wink, they both got good training partners. Now Barnett Taekwondo Academy, I don't know how much time he's spent in there. That is another thing. He comes from Taekwondo, so even though, like I said, he's like, dude will weigh like 340 and he's throwing like fucking question mark kicks and shit. But he's definitely super athletic. His kickboxing is good. He's super explosive. But I just feel like Ben is so much bigger and stronger. Like he's just gonna be able to. Ben isn't the finisher he once was, and man, if he just wants to literally clinch Chris Barnett and put him up against the cage and literally just like hold him there, he could do that all fight. He could do that all fight, and we might see that, man. This might be a stinker. So I would not be surprised. I do think a submission is on the table, man. I mean, I really do think that Rothwell, a TKO from the ground if he really decided to shoot on Chris Barnett is possible, but I really see him using mostly the clinch. It'd be smart to mix in a takedown or two, but I think, I could definitely see him just swarming Barnett. He's not going to want to fight him on the outside and with the weird punches he'd be throwing, even though they work sometimes. But, Barnett is obviously the much more technical striker, but I just see Rothwell just absolutely crowding him, putting him on the cage, swarming him, hopefully mixing a couple takedowns. I think Rothwell by decision is a pretty decent bet, but man, I would take a look at the submission prop because I would not be. We haven't seen it in a while, but I definitely think that he could lock that 5-finger guillotine. Just in general, if he gets on top of him, he could definitely lock up a submission. But I'm gonna take Rothwell and fuck it, I'm going by submission. Hit that shit. That's a little bit of me praying that fight is not a stinker, but I do think the submission's on the table. He might just hold him there for 3 rounds. But next up, we got Jack Hermanson taking on Edmund Shahbazian. And Edmund coming off his first loss. And, Derek Brunson, we've seen he did the same thing to Holland. He's super underestimated. I know a lot of people say he's chinny, but, man, his defense is just not that great. And we'll get into it more when we talk about Cody, but a lot of times people say it's their chin, and sometimes it is. Maybe Brunson is the most durable guy, but I also you look at his style and he has honestly changed it a little bit recently. He's fighting a little bit smarter. He's using his strengths a little bit more, and but in a lot of these fights where he's been finished, first of all they're against top guys, and second of all, he just went into those fights so recklessly. He was just trying to swarm Robert Whittaker, and he won that Anderson Silva fight. Love Silva, but I'm sorry. And then Souza, how he's fighting these guys, man, that's really, we haven't seen Romero, Souza again. Those are top guys. And, Brunson, super legit, man. And, he's just slept on a little bit, and he's been fighting, the best. So, losing to him, on paper isn't that bad. The problem with losing to him is he was exposed is how he lost to him. the cardio, you can definitely see that. He's used to getting these early finishes. You look at his career; it's a lot of early finishes, first round knockouts. That's always a red flag for me, because when you see all these first round knockouts, you gotta wonder what's gonna happen when they get pushed a little bit further. And we saw exactly that in that first round. He looked good, but in that second round, we started to see like it was slowing down. Brunson was starting to really be able to just do what he wanted to him on the ground. There might be a grappling discrepancy there, and then you're fighting another big, strong, good grappler. Jack Hermanson, went 5 rounds with Vettori, won a couple of those rounds. Heel hooked Kevin Gastelum in a round. Okay, the Jared Cannonier fight, that was a little bit of a bad matchup because Cannonier has great takedown defense, and he's the better striker, and he has heavy hands. And one thing I was going to get in that is one Shahbazian's really only hope, in my opinion, is Hermanson is hittable. There's a lot of good things that I was about to say. Look at these wins. Beat Souza, Branch, Mearshark, Tally's Ladies. Even submitted Mearshark, ground and pound over Tally's Ladies. Got knocked out. Jared Cannonier and Thiago Santos. You mean the biggest fucking punchers in the division? Yeah, he's been fighting in the UFC for a while now, man. He's got a lot of experience. But yeah, the one bad thing I will say is he is hittable. And you could see, if Shahbazian wins this fight, I would take him by knockout, because I don't think he's going to win, 2 of the rounds. I mean, maybe he can get out of that second, win those first 2, and then just survive the third. But, man, I really see Jack, pushing a pace that's going to start to tire Edmund out. He's got to hope that he can clip that chin, because we have seen Jack's pretty hittable. On the feet, he's a little stiff. His defense isn't the best. You can catch him with his chin up, hands down a little bit, and I could see him clipping the chin, knocking Jack out, especially in that first round. So, but if he doesn't get the knockout in the first round and a half, I really see Jack being able to get on top of him, ground and pound him. Man, honestly, I'm surprised they gave him Jack Hermanson. He just got there was a lot of hype on him. He got a little bit exposed. Man, give him a step down. This isn't even you could argue this is a step up. I mean, I just said all that good stuff about Brunson, but dude, Hermanson just fought Vettori to 5 rounds in a close-ass fight that, was anybody's fight for most of the fight. And then he's fighting for the title. So you're saying that's, the number 2 guy. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to get into how it should be Whitaker instead, but, whatever. Vettori is a top 3-4 guy, and you're giving him, and he just went 5 rounds with Jack, and you're giving him to Edmund, who just lost to Brunson? It's a little bit of an interesting matchup. You gotta think Edmund's probably telling him, nah, I want a top guy. I want to fight, the best. I'm damn, alright, man. Only 12 fights, maybe slow down a little bit. You're only 23. You go in there and get finished again, you're cutting your career down a little bit. I mean, maybe he doesn't take a ton of damage and gets finished, but just in general, you're fucking up the momentum. It's not like Sage before he left the UFC, because that knockout in 1 was insane. But it's not like he was taking a ton of damage. The momentum got all fucked up because he lost a bunch of fights. Because he was 21 taking matchups he wasn't ready for. I would have loved to see Edmund get I never say this, but I would have liked to see him get a little bit more of a tune-up. You're 23, man. Okay, you are not ready for Brunson. Work on that gas tank. Work on that grappling. Your takedown defense. Your get up. Your striking's there. Just do enough striking to keep it to the level it's at. And fucking let's see you fight a guy like Jack Hermanson when you're 25. You know what I mean? But hey, he's going for it. If he can knock Jack out, he'll be right back in the mix. But that might be a fucking curse. You're gonna be right in the. If he knocks Jack out, Jack just lost to Vettori, and Vettori getting a title shot. All he did between that was fight Holland. How much does that really mean? He beat Holland and Hermanson and get a title shot. If Edmund wins, and his way to win is really knockout, he knocks Hermanson out, bro, we're talking about like fucking him fighting in like two more in like a top 7 guy or something. Whew, that's a little dangerous. But hey, we'll see. I mean, Hermansson's ranked 8 right now, so, and especially the hype that would be like right back on him if he gets the knockout. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's a tough matchup, but overall, I'm gonna take Jack. I'm gonna take him. I think Edmund will survive these 3 rounds. I think Jack will ride it out to a decision, but I could see him locking up a submission on him. Submission, decision. I would hope that Shahbazian can go 3 without getting TKO'd by ground and pound again, but it's possible. Jack has good ground and pound. But overall, I'm going to take Jack. I'm going to take him by decision. And I think we might see Edmund gas again and get taken down, but he could clip the chin. It's possible. Next up, we got Bill Algeo taking on Ricardo Ramos. That was much needed. And Bill Algeo coming in as a slight favorite. Fighting Ricardo Ramos. He just fought Ricardo Lamas in his debut fight, which is a little weird. Like, what? And in that fight, man, I had a parlay with Ricardo Lamas, a couple parlays with him. And, man, I was sweating that one as well, man. These are a bunch of guys who fought in some sweat fest for me. It's like 3 on this card. And he was giving Lamos like a good fight, man. And Lamos was a big favorite in that. Rightfully so. I mean, UFC debut against a friggin', a UFC legend. Like, Lamos just so good everywhere, man. That was such a tough fight. Then he came in the Spike Carlisle fight. And, he did what the game plan has already kind of been shown to beat Spike Carlisle, Like, Carlisle dangerous in that first round, but after that, he just starts to gas. But Algeo has shown that, his grappling is pretty legit. And he's definitely got no quit in him. And, he's just good cardio. On the feet, he throws a lot of volume. He's fighting Ricardo Ramos, who I know a lot of people are thinking he's, going to come in with the better, like, grappling and stuff and take Algeo down. And I do think he could probably take him down, but I don't think he's going to be able to just, like, out-wrestle him for 3 rounds. I mean, his grappling is legit, and on paper you would think it's a little better. Training over at Team Alpha Male now. But, I think Algeo's got pretty underrated grappling, and I mean, in his last fight, I wasn't really impressed with his last fight against Lerone Murphy. I mean, Lerone Murphy is a beast, and while, I do like Lerone Murphy. I think he has a lot of potential, but he just didn't look that, I don't know, man. He just didn't look like he had anything on the feet for Lerone. He was throwing that weird kick that I was like, what is he doing? Like, what is happening? What is that? I was like so confused. I had never seen that shit. And, before that, Jorny Newson, Eduardo Garagori. I mean, submitting Eduardo, that was a pretty good fight. I mean, gave him his first loss. And fought Saeed Nurmagomedov. Now he got, fucked up in the first round for sure. But, that's still good experience. He's fought decent experience. I mean, at least he has some good UFC experience. Even if it's not like the top level UFC fighters. At least he's getting wins in the UFC. And Algeo only has 2 fights in the UFC. So, I always do think that, that shit helps, man. Win or lose, like, just getting in there. And even at 25, like, got some good experience for sure. But I just feel like, man, on the feet, I haven't been very impressed with Ricardo's striking. I do think he could land some takedowns, but I just feel like Algeo, man, like, I just think even if he gets taken down, he can work back to the feet, sweep, get on top. I just feel like, and he even has like enough submission threats off of his back to just like, keep you busy. You can't just like, he's not just gonna lay there and like wait for the ref to stand him up. So I'm really thinking that Algeo would just land more volume, get this done by decision. I just feel like Ricardo, he's been around for a while, but I do think that, this is a pretty tough fight stylistically, and even if he gets Algeo down, I just don't think that he can like implement that game plan for 2 rounds. So I'm gonna take Algeo by decision. No bet on that though. Next up, we got Felicia Spencer taking on Norma Dumont, and in this fight, this is a pretty interesting fight for real because Norma Dumont, came into her last fight way overweight. I mean, what did she come in at? Yeah, 139.5, and it got canceled. And then the fight before that, she came in at 139.5 as well. And I mean, so then they were like, okay, fuck that. You're going up to 145, and you're fighting basically the only true 145er they got. And that's Felicia Spencer. She's definitely like one of the bigger girls in the division. I mean, Felicia Spencer, like, at least we know more about her because, she obviously she's fought the 2 best, Cyborg and Amanda Nunes, and took them both to the distance. And I was a little annoyed watching the Cyborg fight while the whole commentary was, wow, she's so tough, man, she's so tough. It's like, how about the girl who's winning? Can we talk a little bit about Cyborg? It's kind of like they already knew she was going to leave, and they just told the commentary to be biased as hell. But, yeah, like, even though, like, the whole story, and that just made the public talk about nothing but that. It's like, Cyborg didn't even get props for that win, that dominant win. All the props went to Felicia for taking a beating, which kind of did annoy me. But it is true that, like, because the UFC literally has, like, they had Cyborg, now they don't have her anymore. Then they have, even though I think she might be cut or something, I don't know what's going on with that, Megan Anderson, and then basically Amanda Nunes and Felicia Spencer. That's literally like their 45 division. Like, she beat Zaire Farron, but like the division has 3 people in it really. It's Amanda Nunes, Felicia Spencer, and Megan Anderson. And yeah, I mean, the Zaire Farron fight, that was a dominant, good win, but I just feel like I'm not very high on Farron. Her grappling just looks very amateur, and Felicia's grappling is good. The only thing is, like, man, there's just not a lot of tape on Norma Dumont. Like, her grappling looks good so far. We haven't seen her on her back. I mean, we haven't seen I think she's like a brown belt, purple belt, but she obviously got starched by Megan Anderson, but we haven't seen her get taken down. We haven't seen her on her back. Every time we've seen her on the ground, she's been dominating. And she likes to put you up in the clinch, make the fight boring. I mean, her striking doesn't look that great, but neither is Felicia Spencer's. I would give a slight striking edge to Felicia Spencer, but I just don't know. Like, Norma Dumont's a big, strong girl. Felicia's also a big, strong girl. Their wrestling's pretty good. Like, Felicia's got more experience. I do think Felicia should be the favorite, but minus 175, it's like there's not a lot of tape on Norma. I want to see, like, are girls able to take this girl down and, like, stay on top of her? I mean, I know she's coming up a division technically, but she ain't no 135er, man. She's big. She's got big legs, super strong, and I think it might be a little tough for Felicia to just repeatedly take her down. At least we haven't seen the tape of it being done yet. I mean, she hasn't fought the good competition yet, but, it just makes me wonder. So, I do think Felicia's going to be able to take her down. I think she'll probably just take her down to a decision. Maybe a submission's on the table, but I don't think she'll submit her. I think most likely it's just going to be Felicia by decision. But, I mean, at those odds, I wouldn't hate you for taking a shot on Norma by decision. Or you just take fight goes to decision, because I do think this one's going to go to the cards. But I'm going to take Felicia by decision, and let's move on to the next fight. Next up, we got Justin Toha taking on Jared Vanderera. And this is a pretty crazy fight. I always just, I can't believe Toha, this is This is going to be his 4th UFC fight, and he's only 4-2. Like, he came into the UFC at 3-0, and then got his debut against Yorgan De Castro. And I know Yorgan hasn't looked great, lately, but, like, dangerous guy in that first round, and that's a dangerous fight to have as your debut at your home crowd. And then he knocked Juan Adams out, and then in his last fight, he had that weird, crazy-ass fight with Carlos Felipe. Lost a split decision. Definitely, just likes to go out there and just swing him. Has heavy hands. Can be hit. He's pretty hittable. Got a good chin on him, even though he's, been knocked out by Jorgen. It's heavyweight. You get touched and your guard's not up, you're going down. Durable, though. Ate a lot of shots against Carlos Felipe. Definitely has durability. And I do think on the feet, he's the quicker, more explosive guy. Jared's a little stiff on the feet. But I do think, Team Quest guy, like Dan Henderson guy, he's going to want to do what he did to Harry Hunsucker. Take him down, ground and pound him. I do think if he gets on top of Toha, he could probably finish him. I do think that, he's going to have a decent grappling advantage. If he gets on top of Toha, especially early in a round, I don't think Toha will get up. He'll either ride out the round, ground and pound him, or finishes definitely on the table. But I just think Vanderera is pretty hittable, man. And on the feet, I do think this is a pretty good matchup for Toha. Takedown defense isn't great, but I just feel like, Vanderera is just a little too stiff for me, man. A little too hittable. And I could see Toha landing something big on the feet, clipping Vanderera, putting him down. And I'm going to take Toha by knockout, probably in the first round. Next up, we got the co-main event. We got Zionan Jan taking on Carla Esparza. So sorry. And, Jan coming in 13-1, but, I definitely do, this is a good streak. It's just, the Angela Hill, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Claudia Gadelha, that's a good streak. And, dude, if she wins this fight, she very well could be right there for a title shot. So could Carla Esparza. The one thing that scares me about, this line, and it's came down, she was, minus 180 or something. I just feel like people are a little bit sleeping on Carla Esparza because, she's been at it for a while. And those last three names I named for Jan is pretty legit, but Marina Rodriguez went in there and played the spoiler, or out-wrestled her. Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso, Verna Jandaroba, that's a good win, because that girl's legit. Tatiana Suarez, okay. Suarez is an absolute savage. Claudia Gadelha, and that was, I get she lost to her, but, that was 2018. Cynthia Calvillo, Randa Marcos, Juliana Lima, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Rose Namajunas beat her by rear naked choke. Another reason why if she wins this, she'll probably get the title shot. Beck Rawlings. I'm not going to say that like that's something crazy, but, Felice Herrig, Jessica Aguilar, Nina Nunes, a.k.a. Ansarov. Those are a lot of good wins, and she's shown that, she has some losses on her record, but, she's a grinder, man, and I do think this is the style to beat Jan. I guess it's a win-win for the UFC because it's only two. It's only two. Because they've been trying to build the Chinese market. If she wins, that'll she can go in there and try to, fight Rose, and they'll make a little backstory like that, like a China bringing in another teammate to come in. But, Carla Esparza wins, they can make the rematch. Rose wants to get this one back. And, Carla's an established figure in the division. Obviously not some superstar, but, she's established in the division. They can put a nice highlight reel of her up there in the preview. Overall, I do think Jan's going to throw more volume. She's going to be outlanding her on the feet. It's just a matter of can Carla grind her to the cage, take her down, she's not going to do a whole lot of ground and pound. She's not going to submit her. She's just going to take her down, repeat. And, man, I thought, maybe Jan decision before. The real play is, parlay and fight goes the decision, because I really see this one going to the cards. But, maybe just pick which side you're on and go by decision, if you don't want to parlay it up. But I think I'm going to take the dog on Carla Esparza. Put her on the cage, grind her to the ground, stay on top, do just enough to not get stood up, win 2 of the rounds like that, survive the next. Probably lose the first round on volume. she might have Jan might stuff a couple of the takedowns, but I just see Carla just gonna keep coming, and I if I'm not gonna bet it anymore because I lost the odds. At this point, I don't think there's a ton of value. A little bit because I do think she should be like a slight favorite, but I do think that I'm gonna, I think there's a good chance that she just grinds her for 2 of their 3 rounds and wins this by decision. So I'm gonna take Esparza by decision, and let's move on to the main event. In the main event, we got Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font. Cody Garbrandt coming off that big knockout of the year against the Sun Sal. At least it was like in the running. It definitely didn't beat that Joaquin Buckley one, but I know it got a ton of love. He looked a lot better in that fight than the 3 before that, where he was staying a lot more composed. He wasn't rushing. He was being a lot more patient. But you got to admit, and I love Cody, but I know people love to hate on him, but fellow Cody, we gotta love each other. But you gotta say that when he got the KO, he was definitely resorting a little bit to old Cody. Now I get it was only a couple seconds in the round. Maybe he was like, "Fuck it, even if I eat a big shot, I'll survive." But like, he literally just threw in bus driver overhand right, and he brought the hand up a little better than he did in his 3 knockouts to Munoz and TJ twice. But still, when he first threw it, that left hand, that front hand was at his hip, and both of them were. And it worked out, man. It worked out. I love the knockout. But, you play that game too much, and you get he played that game really 4 times. It wasn't exactly the same because they weren't trading hooks like Munoz and TJ were with him. But, you play that, like, plant and just throw your right hand as hard as you can. Like, it was better timed that time. It was a better situation. They weren't just trading hooks like against TJ when he's just throwing hooks back. They're just winging them back and forth. And TJ's keeping his hand high while he's throwing his. And Cody's is literally at his hip. And that's why he got knocked out. And that brings me to a point I always have to make about Cody is, dude, maybe now that he's been knocked out 3 times decently hard, the durability could be going a little bit. But that is not why he lost the fights. People want to say, God, you just expose yourself as a casual when you say shit like that. Again, he's been knocked out 3 times now, but people were saying no chin Cody after the first one, and the second TJ one. No. Even the Munoz fight, he actually ate a decent amount of shots. The problem is not the chin, it's the defense, man. The human body is not designed to take that amount of punishment. And I was talking to a friend, and he was like, yeah, it's not like Rockhold who has no chin. And I'm like, honestly, maybe at this point, Rockhold's chin is not the same. And maybe neither one of them have amazing chins. But the defense is the problem for Rockhold too. Especially at 185 and 205, if your hand is not up, if a grown man at 220 pounds hits you with his fucking fist here or here, as hard as he can, he's a professional cage fighter, let alone Jan Blachowicz, let alone Yoel Romero, you go down. And even at 135, if TJ Dillashaw, juiced up TJ, hits you with fucking full speed, full power hook on the temple, bro, you don't just go, nah, bro, I ate that, I have a great chin. Bro, if your hand isn't even, like, you see block punches knock you out where it's not even like full contact, like where it's like crisp on the chin or temple. Bro, those are like crisp on the temple. Cody didn't even fucking 1% block that shit. It was full power. All the fucking power absorbed through his fucking brain. Yeah, of course it knocked him out. Like, that's a defense issue, not a fucking a chin issue. And at least he's making changes in his camp to get that fixed because he understands that it's defense. And yeah, getting knocked out like that won't help your durability, but it's the defense that got him knocked out, not the chin. God damn it. Okay, getting into Rob Font though, man. Rob Font coming off that fucking dominating win over Marlon Moraes. Looked great. And he beat Ricky Simone, who, yeah, it wasn't a finish like that Marlon Moraes one was. Caught way less eyes, but Ricky Simone's a sleeper in the division. That's a super legit win. And yeah, Sergio Pettis can be a little here and there. And then Sun Tzu, like, man, Sun Tzu's a beast. That's why that Cody knockout was so good, and he doesn't usually get hit like that. So, losing the decision to him, nothing to, like, beat yourself up over. And then you got Pedro Munoz hitting his patented guillotine. Been fighting, like, Thomas Almeida to Douglas Andrade, Matt Schnell, Lineker to decision. I mean, that's a lot of good fights. And, Rob Font's looking better and better. When he first came, I thought he was a good fighter, but I didn't think he was going to get to this level. But his striking has definitely gotten a lot better. His boxing is clean. And the big question is, can Cody, like, stay poised? Because if he gets reckless, if he gets wild in this, while I don't think Font has, like, the one-shot power of, like, a TJ or a Munoz, I do think he could knock Cody out, man. Because Rob Font's hands are so clean, they're so crisp, his defense is on point. Cody's needs to be on point. I know he wouldn't take this fight and think, like, oh, I'm just going to go in there, fucking, and just throw one of my... I mean, obviously there's pockets where he can do that here and there. But, like, dude, if the fight starts getting crazy, don't just plant your feet and just say, let's bang hooks. I respect the shit out of that. A lot of fighters like, this fight ain't going my way. Fuck it. I'll live to fight another day. Cody's like, nope. If I got nothing else, I'll plant my feet and we'll play the 50-50 game. Even though it's not 50-50 when his hand's up and your hand's at your hip. It's more like 80-20, 70-30 at best. Even that feels generous. If you watch the exchanges with TJ, he's literally throwing his right hand and his left hand's at his hip. And the fucking black and white side of that is he's probably knocked people out because of that. Because when you're throwing from your hip, it's unorthodox. He can generate extra power into it. Yeah, like people are used to seeing hands here and then turning for the hook. They're not used to seeing like a dude running at him, hands at their hips. I'm not running at him. He has good footwork, but he will, like, when he smells blood, he darts at you. He comes at you, hands at his hip, and it's just like, I'm going to be able to, yeah, a little bit of head movement here and there, but a lot of, like, you can hit me, I'm going to hit you with this shit harder. And, like, that's tough when you're fighting the elite. And I wouldn't have put Rob Font at elite a couple years ago, but at this point, he has been going into that elite territory, and his boxing is elite. It's crisp, it's clean. Oh, man. Overall, I think I would have to slightly lean with Rob Font. Because we have seen that Rob Font is durable. He hasn't been finished with strikes. We don't know. Like, I just spent all that talking about how it was his defense, but he has had to suffer 3 knockout losses. And we have seen that, like, even in his win in his last fight, I mean, he did still win that fight by planting his feet and going like Sean O'Malley. He kind of had a little bit of a point. And even though I was on the Cody side with that, I still was like, okay, well, he's not wrong, it wasn't like it was Cody 2.0 when he got that knockout. It was same old Cody. It just worked out that time. He brought his hand up a little quicker than he did in the other ones, but it was very similar. And if you do that too much against Rob Font, man, he's not gonna be playing that game, and he's gonna find your chin. But overall, I'm gonna take Rob Font. I am gonna have to take him probably by knockout because it's 5 rounds, and I don't see this going 5 rounds. But that doesn't mean I think he's gonna dominate Cody. I think it's gonna be a good fight, and someone's gonna get clipped. I think it's gonna be a good fight, and I'm hoping he doesn't because I am rooting for Cody. I'm not gonna lie, but overall, I just feel like, man, I don't know if he can avoid just getting into brawl mode when it gets real. And if he gets into that brawl mode against Rob Font, and you would think like he would know better. He's training up his camp. He's getting new looks. He knows that's a problem. But man, this is like built in him. He still did it a little bit in his last fight. And I want to see poised Cody come in here and fight him like he fought Cruz. But if he gets wild, man, I do think that Rob Font will find his chin. And, you know, if it goes 3 rounds, Rob Font's going to throw a decent amount of volume. I think he throws a little bit more volume than Cole. I don't think he does throw more volume than Cody. I mean, when you throw power like that, you tend to not throw as much volume. But, yeah, I'm going to take Rob Font. I'm going to take him by KO, TKO. But I do think this, like, that's like 60% Font, maybe 55. I think it's very slight edge, like, yeah, 55 really. Like, I slightly lean Font. The real bet in this would be like the unders, or like, you know, I do think Cody will take that first round kind of chill, like he did in the last fight. But I do think that once the fight heats up, he's just gonna start banging, and someone's getting knocked out. So the under 2.5, maybe the under 3.5. I don't see this shit going into the championship rounds. If we do, it's because Cody seriously comes in with a different game plan, like the Cruz game plan. So, overall, though, I'm going to take Font. I'm going to take him by KO, TKO, even though it hurts my heart to see. Sorry, Peyton. Sorry, Cody lovers. But, I will appreciate y'all watching. Yeah, leave a like on the video. Let me know the fights you got, who you got picked, if you're with me, against me, whatever. I will see y'all live on Twitch. I've actually been having some PC problems, so hopefully I can get this up ASAP. I'm like kind of late because yesterday I just could not figure it out. But so it'll be up ASAP. Appreciate y'all watching. Hopefully I can stream. Like, I think I'll be fine, but I could not figure it out yesterday. Something with my Ethernet, but I will be back. I'll be live for the fights one way or another. Catch y'all then. Peace.